Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Anjali. Welcome to the call. When I called you, you were saying that we will discuss after 10. So I guess it is the normal working hours in investment banking. Is it right?
Yeah,
Um,
it's fair to assume.
I have a question planned for that as well. But
Okay.
beginning with, I'll just give an introduction of yours to the entire audience. So she's Anjali Dhanwani, and she's currently working with Investec India as an investment associate. So before that, she has worked with ICICI Securities, KPMG India Deal Advisory, EY Strategy and Transaction. So she's a chartered accountant and all India rank holder in CA, and she's also a CFA level 2 candidate. Am I missing something, Anjali, or is it like a comprehensive introduction?
Not comprehensive. Thank you.
Yeah. So welcome to the call. I'm just recording it for the sake of, giving a brief introduction of how IB works to the general cohort, um, like people from who are from finance background and not from finance background, so that they can have an overview of how the IB functions, what all things people look for or in a prospective candidate in a IB role, and what are like general other things with respect to say pay scale or say working hours or any other confusion which um, uh, the students can have. So let me
Sure.
just jump on to the questions and let the call going on. So I have given a brief introduction about you. So we can just start by so how far like you have changed so many organizations and all. So you were in sales side and now you're in buy side. So how has been your professional journey so far, and what factors like did you consider while choosing or moving from first role, second role to third role? What were the factors which you were choosing, or what gave you a motivation to change jobs, or what were the things which you looked into a new job while changing the rules?
Sure. So let me start with how I first chose the IB job right after CA. So one thing was very clear in my mind what was my negative list to start with. I didn't want to do audit. I didn't wanted a FP&A sort of role in a corporate organization. So yes, so that's how I landed to something called strategy and transaction. That department and that jargon was very new for me as well as it might be for many of the new CA or maybe MBA students as well. So yeah, that's how I landed. I landed in the debt restructuring department. So
Okay.
to give you an overview of investment banking as a gamut of services that we offer in investment banking is basically one is the financial sponsor group where we are covering the sponsors being the private equity funds, maybe a tier one, tier two funds, right? That's the department that has relationships with the entire sponsors across the world, across India, across Asia. Second is the coverage banking, the core bankers who are leading the IPO assignments for specific industry. These banking services are generally industry specific. Within industry, also there might be some sectors that one person might be covering. And for example, industrials might have autocom, industrials might have other industrial components such as cement, etc. So that's the proper coverage banking part where the people are, really executing the IPO as well as other mandates within that industry or sector, so to say. Third might be the ECM execution, which is more related to steady regulations, steady compliances when it comes to an IPO or maybe a QIP or any other sort of kind of mandate which is being run at the sell side. And the fourth and last but not the least might be a debt department, which is again housed, within an investment banking where exactly I have been from. I have been working throughout the 3.5 years of my career within the structured debt or the debt so to call. So the reason why this debt department is sitting in an investment banking and not in a commercial banking is the difference that commercial banking generally look at the plain vanilla sort of lending opportunities or situations, which also might include the NBFC situations. And these structured debts are more towards special situations, so to say, or the funds, where the debt funds that get to AIS are putting in their money. for maybe a higher IRR, so to say. That's the gamut of services which an investment banking generally provides. Okay, so and there might be another services such as institutional research, where there are research analysts who are writing the reports on a particular sector, again the sector industry, etc. So yeah, that's how I first landed in my career right after CA. I landed in EY SAT structuring strategy and transactions within the debt restructuring team. The type of work that we were doing over there was again towards structured debt, more on the sell side, purely on the sell side. So we were basically engaged with the companies on one side, and on the other hand, we were engaged with the investors, where we were trying to raise funds from various debt funds, various such as Kotak Special Situation Funds, Warde, DK, just to name a few. Those high yield type of debt investors who are trying to raise money for the companies at lines from all these funds and sometimes from banks as well. So yeah, that was the first leg of my career. When I switched from EY to KPMG, the idea was I was also getting an equity flavor, though I've been working throughout majority of the time on the debt side, but in KPMG I was also getting some equity flavor where I was getting to work towards the funding for the venture sort of companies, maybe a Series B, Series C type of funding for those startups and venture sort of companies. But that was a very short duration. I somehow didn't end up liking that work so much. So I was maybe more focused on more made for structured debt or debt sort of situations. Then I moved to ICICI. The idea of again moving from KPMG to ICICI was it is one of the biggest domestic investment bank on the street right now in India, and it has been for so many years in the past. So yeah, that was a proper what I can say is a IB setup where we had a team of around 60-65 people. It included the ECM team, which was around 10-15 people, coverage bankers, a small team of debt, which included me and my boss, and the other financial sponsor groups. So yeah, a total team of 60-65 running the entire investment banking flow. And just to give a perspective and idea, every second IPO which is being launched in India or being conducted in India, it's being run by ISEC in some or the other form, maybe a lead manager or otherwise. Right, so that was the it really gives a good credit on your CV. So that was the working experience with ISEC. That was around 1.5 years. Again, the idea for moving from a domestic investment bank to Investec India, where I'm working right now, was more from moving from a sell side to a buy side type of role. There are many factors which I considered. The biggest factor was that when you are purely on the sell side, you don't have any balance sheet to offer, right? And when you are on the buy side, you have balance sheet to offer, and that really attracts a lot of opportunities in nature by itself. And the second thing is, of course, I wanted to move from a domestic investment bank to an MNC because I had my own plans. Yeah, so that was the entire, in just 5 minutes, that was the entire journey of 3 to 4 years that I have been working right after CA. Right now, what I'm focusing on is again debt, but on the buy side, doing both dollar as well as INR denominated deals, ranging from corporate deals and ranging up to leverage buyouts, leverage financing deals as well.
So you pretty much covered like all the maybe learning points which you had from each of your respective roles. So can you also shed some light onto what type of skills um, are required in a say typical IB role, or what do they look for in a candidate?
Yeah. So it really depends on at which stage you are in your journey during
Mhm.
your career in IB or career in any specific field, so to say. When you are just starting or beginning with, right, you have to get your hands dirty on many things, such as how to extract data from the various databases, how to pull out maybe research analysis reports, how to read those reports, how to analyze those reports, how to get the financial modeling and the collaterals and the IM and the teaser part done. So that's the I would say the major expectation out of an analyst or an associate when you are working during the start of your career. As and when you move up the ladder, you have to also start building up the relationships. Those relationships, when you are in an ID sort of setup, might be towards clients, because ultimately you have to generate revenue and bill it to the company, right? So those are the client sets that you start meeting with, that you start engaging and building your relationship with, which might come to you in future for IPO, for QIP, for rights issue, or for any other sort of service which an investment banking provides, right? The second type of relationship might be towards the investors that you are engaging with to, or maybe sell the client, or maybe to raise funds for the clients, right? So those investors might again range from pension funds, right from endowment funds, pension funds, to private equity funds, LPs, GPs, or maybe a debt fund, structured debt funds, NBFCs, banks. So those are the, the entire bouquet of investors which you see on the street, and you have to start building your relationship with over a period of time during your career.
Correct. So many a times we do listen the buzzword of financial modeling. So can you also shed some light as to what actually is financial modeling for a newbie or for a amateur? Can you just explain that? And what are the softwares or maybe tools which are used in the IB field to develop financial models?
Yeah, so it's pretty much right. When I entered into investment banking, it was sort of a buzzword, but over the period, I have realized that it's no rocket science. It's just that how you really see your client to perform, what kind of assumptions you are actually taking to build their financials and the cash flows, and nothing else. So just to start with, I have not been using any tools or any fancy really tools to build the financial models. It's just the Excel working and the formulas that you have to get yourself comfortable with.
Mhm.
Many times it is intimidating to build those large lengthy formulas. So yeah, just to start with, to make it very simple, it's just a three statement projections that you are making for the company. Cash flow being the most important, because as a debt investor or as a lender, I will always see what are the cash flows of the company looking like during the tenure of my facility. For an equity investor, it might be a growth, or what sort of assumptions that you are building in towards your revenues and your capex and different types of costs, etc. So it just starts with a assumption sheet where you are building your revenues. Your revenues, it will again differ from industry to industry. How you are actually building your revenues. Just to take an example of real estate industry, where in the beginning you have just taken a debt and put in some equity amount of equity to an SPV, right? And there you are trying to achieve an OC for your project, maybe in 1.5 years or 2 years. Till that time, you are not allowed by the accounting standards to recognize any revenues. Till that time, you are building whatever the cost is there into your inventory. Even the interest IDC during that period, you are building into your inventory. And that inventory, when you receive your OC or when you receive your completion certificates, start getting coming down, and that's when you start recognizing your revenues in the
Revenues.
model. And that's what it really depends on. For an ETC, the financial model will look totally different. For a ham project, it will look totally different. For real estate, it will look totally different. For manufacturing, it will be different. So yeah, the type of the industry that you are looking at, what you really have to focus while building a financial model is how the cash flows and the balance sheet and the P&L of the company is really working during the past. The best idea would be to see the past financials and the past cash flows of the company from the audited financials. What are those components and the variations looking like, right? That's how you start building your assumptions. Assumptions will include your revenue assumptions, cost assumptions, capex, working capital cycle, etc. That will link ultimately to your P&L, to your balance sheet, and it will ultimately flow to the cash flows. So
So
yeah,
the work,
it is a buzzword, but it's no rocket science, honestly.
so the workings which we like used to do in our say SFM equations or maybe in CFA, the present value of future cash flows. So that is the sort of presentation of that, but with obviously with respect to more realistic assumptions, and that
Yeah,
obviously
those.
will require the industry knowledge as well to sort of build the assumptions which are more realistic.
Correct. It has to be realistic, and those assumptions will have to be realistic. And the IRR and the type of present value that we use to compute, that is more for valuation perspective
Correct.
rather than building a pure financial model of the company. It's just for from an equity investor point of view, it will be very relevant. Even for me as a debt lender, it will be relevant to see what is the IRR of a facility being is coming through during the turnout of the facility. So yeah, those are the kind of ratios and the valuations that we're building in the financial model itself.
So we understand that so roles like IB and consulting do require a lot of your time commitment in terms of like they don't have that much flexibility with respect to work-life balance and all. So can you like shed some light as to how do you maintain work-life balance or what work-life balance is for an IB professional? And since you are based in Mumbai, you can give a real life example how you manage travel and all because we understand that Mumbai is I mean people do travel a lot in Mumbai. So you can give some experience as to that as well.
Yeah, so I think you rightly mentioned the definition of work-life balance is really important for and really differs from person to person. If somebody is expecting to leave around 5 or 6 during the initial stage of their career and call it as a work-life balance, that would be really unfair to
Mhm.
him or her because that's not what is expected out of an aspirational individual, right? So yeah, I mean it really differs. And for me, as of now, where I am in my career, it's just 3 years where I've started right after my CA. It's more important for me to gauge or to gain whatever I can juice out from the different type of lending proposals that I'm working on, from the different type of regulations that we get to see, from different situations and the people that we get to see and interact with at the workplace. That's sort of a payback period that you are working on for yourself during the initial 5 7 years of your career at least. Depends from individual to individual. Someone might be smart enough to do it in 3 years. Yeah, but in a general scenario, 5 to 7 years is what I would see as a payback period that you are working on. And after that period is when really the work-life balance would be most important or more important relatively to me because I've learned whatever the regulations I have to or the work that I have to do in the future 10, 20 years. And that's when it really becomes sort of easy, smooth sail for me, to get the things done work and keeping the work-life balance at the same time. And as far as the travel is concerned, yeah, it is a concern in Mumbai. I live around 25 to 30 minutes away from my from my workplace, so I generally take an hour during the day uh, to travel, but that's not that hectic considering the Mumbai scenario. And yeah,
And how many times like how many days during a week you have to travel to client places or how does it happen?
so again, even in an investment banking sort of job, it will really depend what kind of profile you are in. For
Mhm.
example, if you are in an ECM sort of job that requires a lot of interaction with SEBI and the keeping yourself up to date on the legal and regulatory compliances which are required in an IP or QIP or whatever. So that's a desk job that you can probably do 90 95% of the time sitting at your desk. But if you are in a FSG sort of role, which is a sponsor coverage, where you
Mhm.
are expected to meet those sponsors from time to time to build your relationships, or if you are in a origination sort of job in an IB or in a fund, there you are expected to meet a lot of corporates as well as a lot of sponsors to again build your relationships with. So that travel really depends on what kind of profile you are working in. If you are in an origination or a sponsor coverage sort of role, you will be expected to be out of office and really hit the ground and keep, as many client engagements as possible.
So it really sorts of depend on the client or the type of work which you are working on to.
Exactly.
So, moving on to the question, which is the most awaited question, which I guess everyone wants to hear to. What is the range of, say, salary which is offered to a fresh MBA graduate? In the top, say, we can just like restrict ourselves to tier one IB firms.
Yeah, so when you say tier one, I would assume these are the bulge brackets, right? The likes of Morgan Stanley, the likes of Goldman Sachs and Barclays, BAML. Okay, so there the expectation of a candidate who is right after who's just passing out of a tier one sort of college like ISB would be reasonably 50 lakhs or 60 lakhs or thereabouts in CTC terms, right? And that's what the industry standards are. That's where the industry is right now. Even for the firms which are more tier two or boutique firms, but still big enough, likes of Avendus, those are also really offering really better, really good. I mean, 40 plus would be the range for MBA candidate from IIMs, top IIMs, or from ISB. So yeah, those are the industry averages on industry standards.
Thank you so much for sharing this. Maybe not so confident. So on the ending note, what advice will you have to offer, or what advice will you give to all those MBA students who are trying to get into investment banking industry or trying to get into finance industry? So from both the perspective, somebody who is from finance background and somebody who is not from finance background, what sort of advice will you like to give to those people?
Yeah, so again, for the people who are wanting to, land to a IB or a P sort of job, there are few factors that you should consider. First of all, the work-life balance if you are comfortable with. That's one of the factors to consider. The second one is you should start gauging knowledge, more and more knowledge about the different type of services or the different type of roles which a domestic as well as an MNC investment bank or a PE fund would have for you to offer. What kind of role do you really like? Do you like a lot maintaining a lot of relationships or working out of your desk? That will again be one of the important factor to consider. And if you are sure and confident about breaking into this kind of job, then start reading about the industry, reading about the research analyst reports, and they are writing. There is enough and more material available on the internet on the subscriptions, etc., on financial modeling, on different analyst reports, etc. So just gauge more knowledge, talk to more people who are in the industry, actually doing the job, and yeah, that's how I think we'll end up there.
So yeah, thank you so much for sharing your insights with respect to the IB industry. And I would like say whenever you are in Hyderabad, we would like to have you on campus as well and maybe share some insights here as well. So yeah, thank you so
Sure.
much for taking out time after the busy day.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Abbas, and all the best to you for the purpose that you are creating this video for. And all the best to all the candidates who are listening to it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.